It's no secret that alcohol causes a lot of harm in Scotland. That's why the Scottish Government introduced minimum unit pricing, MUP, back in 2018, setting a lower limit beneath which alcohol could no longer be sold. When the law to allow this was passed in 2012, deaths caused by alcohol consumption were several times higher than they had been a generation before, mainly because alcohol had become much more affordable. The minimum pricing policy, which made it illegal to sell a unit of alcohol for less than 50 pence, has been a success. Even though alcohol deaths have risen as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, independent evaluation shows that deaths caused by alcohol were at least 13% less than they would have been without MUP. That means that over 150 people's lives were saved each year. Hospital admissions also went down by over 4%. That's over 400 fewer people ending up in hospital each year. Overall, alcohol sales dropped by 3% in the years after MUP came into effect, and the people who had been buying the most alcohol reduced their consumption more than any other group. Importantly, the reduction in consumption resulted in lives being saved at the highest rates in the most deprived areas, thus reducing alcohol-related inequalities. The minimum unit price legislation was introduced with something called a sunset clause, which means that it will expire unless renewed by the end of April 2024. The Scottish Parliament will soon decide whether to renew it. Worryingly, there are a lot of misconceptions out there about the policy. Some say minimum unit pricing is unfair to moderate drinkers, but the policy specifically targets the cheapest, strongest drinks that are mostly consumed by heavy drinkers. It has very little effect on drinks typically bought by moderate drinkers. Others say it penalises those on low incomes, but moderate drinkers with low incomes buy very little of the low-cost, high-strength alcohol that is targeted. Meanwhile, heavy drinkers on low incomes buy less alcohol and lives are saved as a result. It has also been argued that minimum unit pricing hurts the economy and jobs would be lost. But an independent evaluation of MUP showed there was no negative impact on either. Some people have even suggested that minimum unit pricing would lead to more crime, increased drug use, or people crossing the border to purchase alcohol in England. But again, it's a red herring. There's no evidence that any of these have happened since MUP came into effect. So, minimum unit pricing has been a success for our country. This is not a surprise, because we know from the World Health Organization that pricing policies are the most effective way to tackle alcohol-related harms. However, as time goes on, the effect of inflation is to make that 50p price more affordable, and thus reduce the effectiveness of minimum pricing at that level. If MUP is to continue to save lives, it makes sense to raise the level to take account of inflation. Our political leaders will have to vote by the end of April as to whether they will renew this life-saving policy and whether they will maintain and enhance its effectiveness by increasing the level of minimum unit pricing to 65 pence.